everyone, Diane here, welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be starting on our blobby Christmas birds. We've been doing quite a lot of these blobby birds lately. This is the most popular one that I've done, which is an amazing 20,000 views so far, but there's lots of others. However, now we're going to start transforming these little birds into Christmas birds. And I've got one or two other announcements to make as well. So as we go along, I'm going to be talking about some products that we're going to be introducing soon. Let me see, where shall I start? Okay, so up until this moment in time, these are the ones that we've done. We've got this one here, and this one, 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 and that one. And this is a new one who's just come along to join his purple friend here. Now these ones here are all going to be transformed into brilliant mugs. And this is what they're going to look like. I haven't got an actual example in front of me to show you, but I do have this photo from our website. So if you want to go along to dianeantone.com and go to the products section where we have the things that we have for sale, you will see these mugs. And there's going to be at least 3. And they're going to have all of these birds on them, and they're going to be available with either coloured handles and insides or else white. And they're going to look really cute. So they are available from our website, from Printful, and so they ship to you from a production centre nearby. They're not coming from France, they're not coming from Egypt, where I am at the moment. But they're coming from somewhere near you, and you've got plenty of time to order them in time for Christmas if you go ahead and do that soon. And there will be a few more things coming up on our website as well based on Christmas ideas. Not quite sure entirely what yet, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to be producing possibly some coasters, perhaps some notebooks, a tote bag, maybe a t-shirt, stuff like that. But we're trying to get this stuff done. I don't know. Why is it the days are so short these days? Anyway, so those are the blobby birds that are going to be transformed. And I've already done this one as a video. You saw this one the other day, I think. But I'm going to take my time a little bit more over one now and do it and this is another one I did the other day, but I haven't done a video for this yet. More of a traditional style. But I mean, how many robins have you seen with a hat? So it's still whimsical, isn't it? What was I going to say next? Yes, what am I going to use in the way of materials? I've got my Kuretake set here. This is a 36 pan set, and it's a jolly good set. This is the first one I ever had. I brought it with me to Cairo because I'm going to leave it here because we will be back in the new year again for a trip. So there's no point in me bringing stuff and taking it back to France and bringing it here again. So it's going to live here. I've got my 48 set back at home. And on this one, I just swatched this out this morning, and these are the colours. I ran out of space on here, so I had to continue down here. But you can see what nice colours they are, and they are great paints for being, creative and free and expressive in what you do, much more so than the tiny little half pans that a lot of us have, as we know. You will be familiar with this set, which I recently reviewed, the Paul Rubens 48 set, which is, I was actually watching a video last night from Hazel Sohn. I don't know if you know Hazel Sohn. If you're English, you probably do. She's a great painter, and she was talking about her preferred method of painting, and she uses a set similar to this, only they're not Paul Rubens. She uses a big pan like this, though, and she has some full pans and some half pans like this. And she uses a mixture of Schminke, Winsor & Newton quite a lot. What else does she use? Maybe she's got a few Daniel Smiths and things like that, but mostly I think Schminke and Winsor & Newton. Anyway, but she said that she needs a full pan in order to be able to get a bigger brush in. So for the colours that she uses for her backgrounds and things like that, she uses a bigger pan, which is twice the size of these, and more like this. However, I don't think she uses Kuretake paints. She might think they were a bit inferior, but I don't think they are. And who am I to say, but there we are, that's an opinion. You might like to go and watch that video, actually. It's a very interesting one. I haven't watched all of it yet. Maybe I'll put a link in the description below. I'm always happy to recommend anything that I find online that I think you might find interesting. It's about an hour long, and she's talking in a lot of depth about colours, about the way paints are made, and so on and so forth, which brings me to another subject. I want to show you this. The way paints are made. Watercolor paints, that is. I wonder if you know what this is. It looks like crystallized ginger. You know, that stuff that you can eat, but it isn't. What this is gum arabic. It's raw gum arabic. I went to the supermarket the other day, Carrefour actually. Carrefour is very popular in France. It's a French company, they're worldwide. And I think they're owned by some people from the Gulf now. But anyway, so we were in Carrefour and I saw this and I thought, oh, I must buy some of that. That's gum arabic. What this is hard, see? And it comes from a tree, comes from the acacia tree. Acacia trees you will have been familiar with, no doubt. They grow everywhere, but they particularly grow in the Sudan. And the Sudan is just south of Egypt. And this stuff is what makes your paints work. This stuff is collected annually by a tribe of people in Sudan who move around their country, going from place to place. And one of the things that they use to live on is this gum, which they harvest from the trees, and then they sell it. And with the money that they get, they can afford to buy food. You can't actually eat it, although it is edible. In fact, it is put into many, many different types of food, as well as being used in many chemicals. And it's absolutely essential substance, which is used in everything from M&Ms and gummy bears to shoe polish and you name it, everything that you can possibly think of. I might write a blog about this because it is quite interesting. Anyway, in order to use it in paint, what they do is they grind it up into a fine powder, which you can also buy. Then they mix that with water and then they add the pigment and mix it together, and that's it. Because this is basically glue. That's all it is. And if you lick it, if you were to put this in your mouth, it wouldn't poison you. It's not harmful at all. And it's sticky. And in actual fact, it's used on envelopes for the sticking down of the flaps. On stamps, it used to be used. Not so much now because they're self-adhesive, but it did. And for cigarette papers, remember cigarette papers? Did your dad used to smoke and roll his own? Mine did. That's what was the glue that was used to make those papers stick. I find all this absolutely fascinating. But anyway, so now I have a bag of this, and so the next thing I'm going to have to do is to make some of my own paint. So we'll be getting hold of some pigment when I get back to France. I'll see if I can find some pigment and we'll mix up some paints and you can see how that works out. But for people who are worried about paint containing non-vegan items, you can rest assured that gum arabic comes from a tree and no animals were harmed in the collection of the gum arabic. So there we are. That's a little, what's the word? A little educational experience there for you. I hope you enjoyed learning about gum arabic. I know I did when I found out about it. It's fascinating stuff. Look at that. This makes this. I think that's incredible. Also, it makes lots of other things I'm going to tell you about. It's used in not only glue, but it's also used as a stabilizer in cosmetics and other creams. It's used in paint and pottery glazes. It's used in printing, offset litho printing and other kinds of printing. It's used in chewing gum, in soft drinks, and the most unusual thing I think of all is that it's used in fireworks. Would you believe it? Gum arabic. What would we do without the acacia tree and the Sudan? There we are. So I need to get some paper. I need to think about what I'm going to paint. Okay, so I've done my sketch here of two little birds sitting on a branch with some holly and so on, and they've got hats on. and that's what we're going to paint today. I'm going to try and get a sketch of that up for you to use as a download if you aren't confident about drawing. I can't guarantee I'm going to be able to do it, though. I'll have to do it from a photo because we don't have a scanner here. So I'll see what Tamsin can do about that. But I'm going to put that to one side while I choose the colours I'm going to use. So you can just see it there. I think often when I'm using the Kuretake set, I think it's a good idea to actually pull out the colours that you're going to use so that you don't get too confused, because it's very easy to just use too many colours and then everything looks really messy. So it's better if you stick to a few. You know, a limited palette is what I always prefer. So I'm going to use, this is my swatch that I did earlier, and I'm going to pick out this one here, which is Carmine Red, which I think is a nice red. And so that will do for the hats. And then for the bodies, I'm going to do them in green. And I think probably this green here, which is probably sap green. Where's my list? I can't remember the names of all the colours. That is, yeah, that's sap green. Always a good colour. You can see those two go well together. And then we're going to want a darker green also for the holly. And I do like my forest gump green, as I call it, forest gump. That's the shadowy parts of the holly. And then, oh yes, and of course this will do for the berries as well. I probably won't paint the branch in brown because usually holly twigs are a little bit on the greenish side. So I might just make a sort of brownish colour from the red and the green for that. So I don't think I'll pick out a brown. So we will need a blue for the sky. And we've got a choice. We've got ultramarine, cerulean, Prussian indigo, imperial violet. You can choose whichever blue you want. I think I'll go for ultramarine because everybody has ultramarine, so that's a good starting point. We will need white as well. And I think this is white down here. We'll need that for the snow. If you've got a separate white, you know, something like P.H. Martin's white, that will do nicely. I'll have to clean that before I start. And I think that might be, I don't think I'm going to need a yellow, am I? I don't think I will, but if I do, I'll probably go for cadmium yellow here, so I'll pop that one there. And we'll see, we will want black and stuff like that for the eyes and so on, but for the minute, I think that will do for now. So let's put that out the way. And I need a piece of paper to act as a test sheet, so we'll use that. And there we are. Brushes, we will use I think this is about a 7 round, something like that. That will probably do the trick for most of what we need. I will probably do some inking on this, almost for sure. And for that, I could use any one of many things. I've got my Tombow brush liner here, which goes thick and thin. That's quite nice because when you use that, you can get this thick line or a thin line in the same painting. So that's quite fun. And you can, like where I did the legs here, I just did 2 thick strokes and then lots of little tiny thin ones, all with the same pen, which is rather good. And so that's one of my favourites. And that might be what I finish off the painting with. It depends how it goes to a certain extent. And I might want to use a slightly bigger brush, something like an 11 or a 12 for the sky. It depends how you want to do the sky. You might want to do it really roughly, or you might want to do it in great detail, you know, very carefully. It's up to you, really. And you can either do the sky first and then paint the birds, or you can paint the birds first and then paint the sky. Either way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really make any difference. Yeah, so let's get started, shall we? It's enough chatting. I'm going to use this one as a colour reference and put him over there, just to remind me, because I'm going to do these bodies in green in the same way. They could have scarves on, but they haven't really got much in the way of necks, have they? So I think we'll just stick with the hat. And I think I'll start with the hat. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of red for that, and let's sit down. It's a good idea. Take the weight off. And you can, there are different ways, obviously, of painting everything. So you could keep that line of the furry top of the hat straight if you want. You want to make it really graphic, or you can make it look a little bit more furry by just kind of giving a broken line. It doesn't really matter. And this one we'll do the same. Since I've done it on one, I'll do the same on the other. And we'll sort of give the hat a bit of shape. But you don't have to do that. You can do it as a clean triangle if you want. Okay, so that's that. And we might want to use some blue to make the red a little bit darker. And then you can call that shadow. So you might want to sort of put some shadow in the back there, or near to the ball, or behind the edge of the fur. Just something to kind of break it up a little bit. And then I think I'll probably do the bodies. So I'll pick up some green. And I decided to give them some wings. So we'll put in the wing there, and then just paint round the eyes and round the beak. You can take your time over this. There's no rush. Oops. Try and keep that slightly round. Okay. And then again, you can add a bit of blue to make that green a bit darker. And then you can just drop some in. You don't need to be too precise about where that goes, just a bit like that. Or you can use your darker green if you want instead. If you haven't got a darker green, just mix some blue in. Okay, and then this one I'm going to start with the darker colour because he's kind of just slightly behind. So I'll start with the darker colour there, paint around his beak, and then maybe switch to the lighter one. And he's got a wing out here. There we are. And let me just put some green between the eyes there, sort of around the top, and here too. You can always kind of fine up the details later, but that's a start. And then we will do the holly, I think. So let's take some red and some green to make a sort of reddish green colour, brownish, greyish, whatever-ish, and we'll just paint the stem in there. You see, you don't need a special brown because green and red makes brown. And then we'll go for the holly in green. There's 100 ways you could paint this. Whatever you like. You don't have to stay inside the lines. I'm staying pretty much inside the lines here because I am, but you don't have to. And I'm just going to drop in some darker green just to break it up a little bit. And I will be doing, as I said, I will be going over this with ink to give it a little bit more character maybe, or definition, or whatever you want to do. And a bit of a darker green, just pop that in, sharpen up some of the points of the holly. It's quite strange doing Christmas things when you're away from your normal environment. I mean, in Egypt, and although it's November, you wouldn't know it because it feels like summer. And obviously, of course, because it's Egypt. So it's quite difficult actually to get into the mood. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to this red. I said I might want to. So we'll just make that a slight different colour, and I'm just going to pop in some berries here, and I rather hope that some of them will run a bit. And of course, if you want them to, they probably won't. So then I'll pick up some blue and make that into a darker red, more of a purple, and put some shadow in some of them and make some darker ones behind, like that. And next, what is next? Maybe the feet of the birds. Let's put some really dark and just give them little claws like that. Okay, we're getting towards the point where we might want to do the background, I think. Beaks, yellow. Yeah, I knew there was a reason why we needed yellow. Of course there is. I'll get some yellow. Okay, so far so good. Let us mix up some blue. I need a palette. These palettes are super cheap and very easy to come by on Amazon. You can get them in a pack of 10, I think, for very little money. And I picked up a bigger brush, and I'm going to put in some background. So I'm not going to do it super accurate or careful or anything, but I'm just going to basically go round and indicate the sky. You could use a darker blue if you wanted it to look more like nighttime or something. Depends whether you want daytime birdies or nighttime birdies, really. I think mine are going to be daytime birdies. But it might be snowing, you know, so we might put some snow on at the end. Some people don't like it if you leave gaps when you paint your background, but I quite like it like that. But if you don't want the gaps, then do the background first and paint somewhat over when you come to do the, you know, the features, the leaves and everything. You can go over the lines, but I prefer it when the colour runs and it all looks very sloppy and messy. Wasn't it Shader Campbell, who coined the phrase, or certainly popularized it a few years ago, perfectly imperfect. I think that's pretty much the way most of us watercolorists these days, the modern style, unlike the way it used to be in the olden days when Turner was doing his watercolors and so on. That was all very accurate and hard. Right, now what's got to happen now is basically it's going to have to dry. And I don't have a hairdryer here at the moment. So what I'm going to do now is clean up my white and wonder whether I brought with me, did I? I don't remember. I do have a tube of white titanium white gouache. So I think this is a Meaden colour from Meaden set of paints. I was sent a set of Meaden gouache a while ago. I don't use gouache very often, but it is useful for things like this. So I'll mix that up with some water to use for the snow. And if I were to try it out, let me see if I test it on. Yeah, that's okay, that'll work. You don't really need a special brush, just any brush will do. Make it reasonably runny like that, and then you can just spatter snow into your actually quite rapidly drying because we are in a very dry climate. It's one of the things that makes this country very different to live in, because your body has to adjust to the lack of water in the air. And you'll probably notice that my voice is a little bit croaky. And it's because, I think it's because the air is so dry. And even if you've got air conditioning, that doesn't make it better. It makes it, if anything, worse. And so, yeah, bit of a problem. Okay, so the next thing to do is, I think, the very light blue shadow on the furry bits. So it needs to be really light. And we want some on the eyes as well. It needs to be really light, but we might have to come back and do more than one layer. Make that look a little bit more realistic. And I really want to do the eyes now, because they are looking a bit blind. Whoops. Okay, so let's see, how should we do the eyes? Okay, I'm going to start off by going around my holly, I think, just to get the feel of the pen. So we'll just outline the berries and the leaves a little bit. You don't have to do this part of it. If you paint more carefully than I have, then you definitely don't need the outlining. But if you're doing splodgy paintings, you know, sometimes this is what will pull it all together. It's a little bit damp. So we just partially outline everything. You've seen me do this multiple times before, and I know everybody thinks when I start, oh my God, is that going to work? And I don't know either. Okay, so let's put in some pupils. Just pressing down hard to make it dark. And then we can go around the outside of the beak, for example, and the eye. And then let's just give them some outlines. Sorry about the scritching. I'm trying to minimize it. I know it's a, what do you call it? It's a fingernails on the blackboard problem. Okay, so we'll keep going. Just pressing, I'm holding the pen quite a long way back, so I have less control, which is what I want. I don't want it to be too precise, and by golly, it won't be. Okay, I think we're getting there. Hand's gone numb. A little bit very pale blue. Perhaps I might mix it with a tiny bit of gouache to just give some shape, some shadow to the eyes. And I know that's on the other side, but he's looking the other way. And then a bit more shadow in the furry bit of the hat. You get to this point and I suddenly think, oh my God, I hope the phone hasn't stopped recording, because, you know, these things happen, don't they? And I think we're getting close. So maybe we need a little bit of darker green here and there on the wings, for example. And just some texture, perhaps underneath the beak and behind the eye. Like that, perhaps. And, you know, you could, if you wanted to, and if you could find it, you could take your gold pen, which probably won't work, and you could put a few touches of gold on the berries, for example. Could use a white pen for that too, if you wanted to do it in white, but the gold is quite nice. And you could do some of them, could go over the red more or less in gold if you wanted to. And you could, you know, I'm not going to do this, but you could put dots on their hats. I think I'm going to just darken one side of his beak, and you could do that with a pen. You know, you could, a brush pen, you know, one of the, like the Poetique ones, which are no longer available, actually. So I'll just darken one side and the bottom there a little bit. Gives it a bit more 3D ness. right, okay. So, yeah, I'm not thrilled with the way the holly came out. I think what's happened there a little bit is that I'm not used to the way the paper is drying. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in with my brush pen and I'm just going to try and sharpen that up a little bit. Just very hard to see the berries if it all runs too much, you know. And probably I could find a red one too. And just improve these colours a bit. It has to be said, these brush pens are very handy. Yeah, these ones are Poetique, and as I say, I don't think you can get many more, but I think Artex have got something similar. You'll find them on Amazon. That's a bit better. Put some veins in the leaves, that makes them look better too. I haven't painted anything for a few days because we've all been ill, you know, with jippy tummy. My husband had it yesterday, and Tamsin had it before him, and I had it first, as usual. So, yeah, we've not been completely on track. And for those of you who are wondering, if anybody is, why I am here is because my husband, years ago, for an investment, bought some property here. And we are contemplating spending winters here instead of in France, and so we need to furnish the place, which is why we're here at the moment. Okay, so I'm just going to put a few little dashes of green, if I can find my green one. Is that green? No, is that green? Yeah, ink green. Just put a few little dashes of green on the bodies of the birdies. And I'm going to call that done. So don't forget to go over to dianeantone.com and look for the mugs. And Tamsin's putting those together, and I think they're going to be absolutely lovely. Well, they are. I can see that already. And yeah, so here we are. There's two little dicky birds sitting on a branch and all getting ready for Christmas. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you again soon. So I'll let you go, and bye for now, everybody. And I hope all your Christmas plans are going in the right direction. Yes, I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.